Top of the morning, guys and gals. Dave Carney here with you. This is the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Flying solo this morning, my good friend Matt from the recovery room is taking a day off from both the bar business and the show business. We have been running this guy absolutely ragged. So we decided to give old Matt a day off, but don't you worry. We have got a really fun show today. Our good buddy Mike Schmidt, Northern State Wolves head coach, going to be jumping aboard the Sports Carnival carousel at about 8:15. We have got a lot of ground to cover with Mike. We've got our poll question hanging up there on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, on our Facebook group page, which is now just 2 members shy of 400. If you want to check in with the program this morning, do so on one of our 2 Facebook group pages, the YouTube channel, or also on Twitch. I see Thomas from UWL is checking in bright and early this morning and saying, good morning, Dave. Lots of big NFL news in the last 24 hours. Boy, was there ever some big NFL news in the last 24 hours. And this is largely what we anticipated yesterday here on the program, and really what everybody was anticipating who watches or who keeps track of NFL football. The dominoes were going to start to fall. Derek Carr signing with the Saints on a 4-year deal set in motion a number of different things. Geno Smith getting re-signed by the Seattle Seahawks on a 3-year deal. And then yesterday we saw Daniel Jones. Yep, they're calling him Danny Dimes in New York, a dude that threw 15 whole touchdowns, but did have an impressive season and won that road playoff game we all remember against the Minnesota Vikings. Got a 4-year deal worth $160 million, about $82 million of it guaranteed. Lamar Jackson, 26-year-old, prime of his career, former MVP quarterback, got franchise tagged by the Baltimore Ravens. So, yeah, Thomas, there was a lot of NFL stuff that happened yesterday and a lot of reverberations that we'll be talking about this morning. So, Mike Schmidt going to join us at about 8:15 here, guys and gals, and we're going to dig into Lamar versus Daniel Jones. How much does keeping up with the Joneses now impact, literally and figuratively, Lamar Jackson's pursuit for a fully guaranteed contract? We did hear something last night that is not making Packer fans happy. As a matter of fact, good friend of ours, Hunter Bumgard, who's working down at iHeartRadio in Milwaukee, when this news broke, said on his Twitter feed, at Hunter B on air, no, I'm not okay. This is not okay. We heard this news last night, guys and gals. Aaron Rodgers met with the Jets brass in California. So according to multiple reports, and this has now been sourced and has been basically published across all of sports media and really across the newspaper and, well, I guess we now say the internet landscape, Aaron Rodgers went to the airport to meet with the Jets. So Jets owner Woody Johnson, general manager Joe Douglas, head coach Robert Saleh, offensive coordinator, and of course somebody that Rodgers had at least a lot of affection for publicly in Green Bay, Nathaniel Hackett, flew to California to meet with Rodgers. Now, according to these reports as well, the plane arrived at 12:49 p.m. Pacific time in Camarillo, California, which is a little airport. Camarillo is a town that I actually lived in for a couple of years before I moved back to Las Vegas in. Neat little place, Ventura County. It's outside of the hustle and bustle, so an appropriate place, it feels, for Aaron to meet with these Jets contingencies. Rodgers goes out there, meets with them. We're not sure what happened from that point on. Now, this does mean that the Green Bay Packers have given Aaron Rodgers permission to talk to the Jets. That's what this means. Because if the Packers did not give Rodgers permission to talk to the Jets, this meeting could not technically happen. It would be considered tampering. So that does mean the Packers are saying to Rodgers, at least for now, sure, go out there, talk to these guys, see what you can get from them. Or perhaps Aaron Rodgers is just meeting with these guys to tell them something that he hasn't yet told the Green Bay Packers, which, who knows, could be, I'm not going to play next year. It's going to be a really interesting situation. P12 Foreman checking in. Good morning, David. Good morning, Foreman. Rodgers is going to take the Favre path to the New York Jets. This is the thing that seems really suspect to me. As much as Aaron Rodgers has spent the entirety of his career trying to distance himself from Brett Favre, for this thing to end in exactly the same fashion for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers is, to me, one of the most inexplicable stories, or one of the most inexplicable examples of the great question, which has basically been on human beings' minds for many years. Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? if this truly does happen and Aaron Rodgers goes to the New York Jets, the ending of the career for Rodgers in Green Bay and Favre in Green Bay is going to mirror each other. It won't just be a little similar. It will actually mirror each other. Now, we don't have the stat with us right now that I can pull up, but I put it up here right after the Packers season ended versus the Lions. How Aaron Rodgers went out in that game with his completions or lack thereof, the yards on his last number of passes, all these different statistical anomalies actually mirrored exactly what Brett Favre did in his last number of passes with the Green Bay Packers. This is one of those situations where seriously, I would have to pinch myself if Rodgers does go to the Jets, because it's just something I never truly could have anticipated happening. Morning Woods checking in this morning. Top of the morning, big guy. You must be excited because Badger basketball back on tonight. This is Big Ten tournament time, guys. The NFL is like literally sucking the oxygen out of championship week, which used to be one of the most dynamic weeks in sports, right? We had championship week in college basketball. Now the free agent news in the NFL is literally taking the oxygen out of championship week. Morning Wood says Rodgers will be dealt by tomorrow. By tomorrow. Listen, this thing's moving fast, and it's going to move fast because the free agency period will begin shortly. These dominoes need to fall in order for teams to get their ducks in a row and get themselves ready for the coming season. To take on Aaron Rodgers' contract is going to be no small feat. No small feat. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Jets are willing to give up in order to get Aaron Rodgers. The Packers could be in for a haul, or maybe because there really aren't that many suitors, maybe because there aren't really that many teams that, A, want Aaron Rodgers because of a number of reasons, age and ability, the fact that he might retire on you at any time, or B, just can't afford this guy, make the few teams that could be in play for Aaron, I don't know. It maybe makes their position, their leverage position, just a little bit stronger. All right, let's see. P12 Foreman checking back in says Rodgers could only hope to be as good as Brett. Well, Brett Favre was definitely a football player. That's why John Madden liked this guy more than anybody in the league, because Brett Favre was a football player. You know, Aaron Rodgers, talent-wise, is as good or better than Brett Favre ever was, right? Talent-wise, he is. But there was something about Brett Favre that I'll agree with you on here, Foreman, made him feel like a better football player. I know the stats might not back that up, but it did make him feel like a better football player from a lot of different perspectives. Let's see. UWL's Thomas is checking in here and says he's so pumped for March Madness. He joined an ESPN bracket challenge with some of his friends that is 50-plus strong. He had to play $10 to enter. Winner gets all the money. That's awesome. You know, P1 Breacher was asking me a day or two ago if we were going to do a bracket challenge here on the program. The answer is yes. So we're going to put it together. I want to have it, though. I want this to be as live as possible. So we'll put it together. We'll put it on our Facebook group page. P12 Foreman maybe can help me out with this. But I also want to have a version of it that will live live at the Recovery Room, which, by the way, the Recovery Room opens up again this morning at 11. Wings and beer today. It's the Wing Wednesday special. Pound of wings, your choice of sauces, pitcher of beer, domestic, just $14. Great deal. Again, opens at 11. Well, I'm glad you're pumped for March Madness because generally, guys and gals, this is the time of the year in which we're talking college basketball. This is the time of the year, especially this week, championship week, in which it's all about college basketball. And yet here we are with the NFL just literally taking the oxygen away from college basketball. This is how far the NFL has come. It's really quite remarkable. All right, stay tuned. Mike Schmidt, Northern State Wolves head coach, going to jump aboard with us early today at 8:15. When I come back, we'll talk a little bit about this Badgers-Ohio State Buckeye game coming up tonight, 5:30. What are the lines for this game? What's the total on it? If you want to make a wager, go to the official sports betting partner of the Sports Carnival. Claim your free money. Use the promo Carnival. 125% deposit match on your initial deposit. That, of course, is BetUS. Back in about 60 seconds. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the recovery room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
The Social Distancing Sport Association, or SDSA, presents guidelines to safer athletics. For example, when participating in basketball, remember the Harden rule. That's right, James Harden is a man ahead of his time. Number 1, when playing defense, that is if you choose to, keep 3 to 6 feet between you and your opponent. Never double team and always appear disengaged or aloof. On offense, be sure to isolate yourself from your teammates. Dribble the shot clock down, rarely pass, and finally take a 30 to 35-foot shot. This has been brought to you by Arm's Length Under Armour. Go ahead and play. Just stay at least an arm's length away.
Gotta love the SDSA, Social Distancing Sport Association. The Harden Rules, which won a 2020 WBA award. That is the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association's Awards for Excellence. Our good friend Chad Forrester, talked to him over the weekend. He's doing great. His company's actually going through a big shakeup. They're going to do something that I was curious about. If you would like this schedule, 410s. They're going to go 4 days a week, 10 hours a day in order to keep up with a shifting demand. And of course, as I think if you're an owner of a business, a small business especially, you understand not just the shifting demand in your marketplace, but a shifting workforce. There probably has never been a better time to be a worker in the United States than right now. If you want a job, chances are you can go out there and get one. It is a big day here on the Sports Carnival. Mike Schmidt going to be jumping aboard in just a few minutes. Morning Wood is using this opportunity to say it's a big day of high school hoops on Thursday. That's also real talk right there. He says the West Salem girls play in the late afternoon. The Aquinas girls hoop it up around 6:30 p.m. Yeah, it's becoming WIAA state playoff time here, and this is exciting time. Our area teams, both boys and girls basketball, since I've moved out here 6+ years ago, have been nothing short of fantastic. They have been nothing short of fantastic. We've seen, I want to say it was cities like Bangor win both a boys championship in basketball, football in the same year. I think their girls got really, really close. Of course, the Aquinas Blue Golds, coached by Dave Donarski, have been spectacular, and they will be again this year. I know that Johnny and Jordan Davis's younger sister is on that team, and wow, is she really good. There's a lot of exciting sports going on from a youth level all the way up to a pro level here in the state of Wisconsin. Western Wisconsin, we are blessed. And our good buddy Craig Cole over at Onalaska, Todd Ferget at Central, Brad Reinhardt at Aquinas. These guys are doing great work, really great work. And I'm sure I'm missing like a ton of people, but you get my drift. So appreciate you, Morning Wood. Always fun to see your name pop up here on the Sports Carnival. If you want to pop into our poll question this morning, I'd love you to do so on this as well. Go to our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, our Facebook group page. If you're a member there, you can take this morning's poll question and answer me this, because we'll talk about this more in depth with Mike Schmidt coming up in just a few minutes. Will Lamar Jackson stay with the Baltimore Ravens or go to another team after Baltimore franchise tagged him? So Baltimore uses the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, about $32.5 million for this upcoming season. If he does play on that tag, it does give Lamar Jackson the opportunity, who is without an agent, to go and engage other teams to talk about a contract. Now, the Ravens can match this contract, or they can let Lamar Jackson walk, in which case they would get 2 first-round draft picks back for Lamar, which seems like a minuscule amount considering what the Packers and Packer fans are really hoping that the Packers get back for Aaron Rodgers, who's near 40. Lamar Jackson's 26 and also coming off a recent MVP season. So what are your thoughts? Will Lamar stay with the Ravens or go to another team? On Twitter, we are split directly down the middle. 50-50, stay with the Ravens or go to another team. Jumping over to our Facebook group page, we are right now, let me get a refresh, 77-23, with 77% of you saying he's staying with the Ravens, 23% suggesting that he goes to another team. The Lamar Jackson situation is fascinating. It really and truly is, because you're talking about a guy who is so doggone dynamic. It's really hard to put into words sometimes how incredible he is. The running ability of Lamar Jackson is second to none at the quarterback position. Now, Justin Fields had a great season this last season on the ground for Chicago, but Lamar Jackson's been doing this damn thing for a while. So what he does on the field is breathtaking. It's spectacular. Sometimes it literally takes the words right out of your mouth, and you can't even come up with a way to describe how cool and how good Lamar Jackson is. On the same hand, he's been injured in the last couple of seasons. They haven't won Baltimore big playoff games. He's 1-3 in the postseason, but the regular season record is terrific. I mean, third most wins since he became a starting quarterback in the NFL. Not bad. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this plays out with Lamar. I mean, really, really interesting. The poll question is mentioned on our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney and the Facebook group page. Will Lamar stay with the Ravens, or will he go to another team? Will he go to another team? P12 Foreman's, or actually, this is Rob Dog. I said P12 Foreman. Rob Dog checks back in and says, a third-round pick for Rodgers, just like Favre? Was that what the Packers got for Favre back then, a third-round pick? I didn't remember what the compensation was, but I do remember at the time, the feeling that Favre was going to retire was so prevalent that probably dropped a lot of the different kinds of asking prices that the Packers had for him. But I don't doubt you, Rob. If you say it was a third-round pick, I'll take you on that one. No, the Packers will get more than a third-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. That is for sure. The Packers will definitely get more than a third-round pick for Rodgers. All right, Mike Schmidt joining us this morning from the offices of Northern State, the NSU Wolves, back from a recruiting trip. Mike, appreciate you jumping aboard the Sports Carnival early again today. You know, we used to have you on 3 times a week, which felt like a more complete and a more true way to converse with you and your uniquely qualified talents. But the last couple of weeks, we're getting you on for extra time. We got some bonus time with Mike Schmidt. So we're going to take it and we're just going to run with it. How you doing, buddy? You're back from, I guess, where were you last week? Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. Where exactly were you planted?
Yes, all of the above. We are back from parts unknown across America here. We're back in the beautiful the north here, where there's just snow like crazy. I think we're supposed to get like another foot of snow here this week. It's supposed to snow every day from now through yesterday through Saturday here. So we're back. We were Colorado, Salt Lake City, Wyoming, and back. So it was a long trip. It was 8 days or something like that for me. I was gone, and it's good to be back with our team. And I had shingles that week before. So this week it was kind of like, hey, who's the new guy here? And it was me, the head coach with our team. So had a little work and had some had my shingles the week before. So we're back, and we're better than ever here. And I'm glad to be on with you. It's like bonus degrees, Dave. It's just bonus minutes together.
Yeah, it's bonus minutes with you, and that actually warms the cockles of my heart so much. I threw bonus degrees out on the region, and Mike, it's going to be beautiful today. We're going to be in the mid to high 40s. Yesterday, I went in the car. At one particular point, I was in and out all day. 51 degrees is what's popped up there. Western Wisconsin, it's a beautiful place. We get ours, not quite as hard as you get yours, but we do get ours. Mike, so much ground to cover. I want to throw this on the screen, though, for those that were with us in our last segment. I'm going to get your take on this really quick. The Big Ten tournament starts today. We got the Badgers, Ohio State, Minnesota, Nebraska. The Badgers are currently 2-point dogs against Ohio State. The Buckeyes coming into this favored, even though they're the 13 seed. The Badgers are a 12 seed. Mike, we haven't talked a lot of Badger basketball this year because there's just been so many other things going on. And like I said in the first segment, you know, the NFL offseason's taking the oxygen away from championship week in college basketball, which is really crazy. It shows you what happens when the NFL's not even in action, how popular they are. But where do you see this Wisconsin team right now? And when you look at the Big Ten tournament bracket, you know, what do you think they would have to do to make the NCAA tournament at this point? Because they're amongst Joe Lunardi's first 4 out, and he's generally not wrong.
Yeah, no, and nowadays, like there's not much controversy with the formula and how they work out this tournament nowadays. So there's not a whole lot of secrecy in who's in and who's out, and just how you work through the formula, which I love. I think that's great. I think it benefits teams like Wisconsin right now. I think they probably have to win 2 to get some of these big high wins. Yet they probably have to get 2 wins here in the Big Ten tournament to move into that group that's in. So they probably got to beat Ohio State. They got to beat Iowa, which are both games that they could and probably should, I think, as Badger fans, as you look at it, they could and should win those two games. So I think if you're a Badger fan, you got to feel pretty good about where they're at right now. They need 2 wins to get in, though. And that's the thing about playing in the Big Ten with this new formula. I mean, I know, I think it was like even 3 weeks ago, maybe you put out, are the Badgers in? Are they out? They were in the midst of kind of losing like 6 of 7 or whatever that was, 5 of 7. And it was like, well, in the Big Ten, all you got to do is you got to go on one little winning streak and you're back in the tournament. And the same way you look at Rutgers right now, Rutgers was solidly in the tournament a couple of weeks ago. They looked great. Now they have a terrible loss at Minnesota last week. They have a couple other losses. They're kind of reeling right now, and they're barely in the tournament. In this conference, it can turn so fast. So I think just because of the strength of the Big Ten right now, the Badgers got to win 2, and they can definitely still get in this thing. They're not out of it. They got to play their way in, though, and that should make it fun. That should make us all tune in and watch our beloved Badgers try to get into the tournament right now.
Yeah, tonight's game, 5:30 tip-off on the Big Ten Network, will be shown at the Recovery Room. If you want to come on down, Wing Wednesday, wings, beer, $14. Watch the Badgers take on Ohio State. The BPI, the Basketball Power Index, gives the Buckeyes about a 69% chance, or a 59% chance, I should say, of winning this game. But I agree, it does make it a very interesting start to the tournament. I look at this bracket, and I think if Wisconsin really wants to punch their ticket, obviously, if they win the Big Ten tournament, they're in. But if they beat Iowa, they beat Ohio State, and they beat Michigan State, lock it up. Yeah. These guys are a shoo-in.
Yeah.
The win against Marquette early this season continues to age better and better as the weeks and months go on. Marquette's been a really, really good story this year. Shaka Khan, who I think people in the state of Wisconsin didn't necessarily know if they wanted to buy in. He's done a great job. So that win against what is now like a top 5 or a top 6 team in Marquette is going to look really good. But if you think that it's 2, I'll go with you. I'll say 2. Beating Iowa for a 3rd time this season could be a lot. But Fran McCaffrey could just lose his cool on the sidelines, and who knows, maybe the meltdown would give the Badgers a whole bunch of technical free throws, and they'd be able to just go ahead and take it by virtue of, I don't know, almost default because of Fran's just, actions on the sideline. As a coach, how does that land on you? Do you enjoy that kind of behavior? Do you think that makes coaches look bad? I mean, how does that wash on you, especially when you're staring down an official on the court like that?
What are you going to do? Fight him? Or like, and he looks so like fat and out of shape there in that moment. Like, what are you going to do? Like you're 60 some years old. You're going to fight a guy. Like, what are we doing? I just look at all of that stuff. I think when you, and I watch our own men's basketball team here at Northern, and Saul Phillips, who's from Wisconsin, from Reedsburg, played at Platteville for Bo Ryan, ended up coaching with Bo Ryan at Wisconsin, was at NDSU, took him to the Sweet 16. So he's a big-time coach, right? He is the man. He and his team are second in the region right now. They've been a top 25 team. They're playing in the national tournament in Division II down at Northwest Missouri State here this weekend. And they are the same team every week. They show up, and that they don't have to be the most talented, and they don't have to be the best basketball players, but they show up and they're so consistent. And in this sport, it's about consistency. When you look at basketball, it's about consistency. And so many times your team feeds off the coach on the sideline. And you can watch as soon as a coach loses his mind, as soon as a coach gets a technical, as soon as a coach loses his composure, his team generally follows them losing their composure. And so when you look at the Iowa one, for me, is like one of the most outlierish things of all time, because after Fran McCaffrey does that and his own players are trying to pull him back into the huddle and do that, what did they hit, like 5 threes or 3 threes or something like that in the last couple of minutes to win, to force it to overtime and won that game. That is an anomaly. Most of the times when you watch basketball, as soon as the coach loses his cool, so does his team. And I think that's the thing about basketball is you want to try to keep it as least emotional as possible, because you're trying to shoot free throws and you're trying to do these things. I think when you look back at these programs that have had unbelievable success, Coach K rarely lost his cool in the 2,000 games he coached in or whatever it was. And you rarely see Mark Few at Gonzaga lose his cool. Those are the teams that just show up, and they don't ever have to have the best basketball players on their team to always be good, because their coach and their team generally keeps their composure, and you know what you're getting week in and week out. If you look at a lot of these mid-major programs, as long as you just show up every week and you have some sort of consistency, you're probably going to have a chance to win 20 games and be in the discussion to get into the tournament. That's kind of the trick in this sport. So I don't like this stuff. I think they kind of look silly when they do that. And you're so close to all the fans in that sport. You're right on top of it. It's different from my sport where there's a lot of space and there's a lot of area to cover. You're right on top of people, and your team can feel that, and the crowd can feel that.
Yeah, it's interesting how hyped up you can get at a basketball game and get people hyped up because of the closeness. And I'm reminded, I should say, a lot of times of the malice at the palace and just the ways in which things can quickly escalate, especially because, like you've mentioned, there aren't any barriers in there. Well, if the Badgers get past Ohio State again tonight, 5:30, they're 2-point dogs. They have to take on Iowa. Beating a team 3 times in a season is never easy, but then they'd have to sit there and play Michigan State. P12 Foreman, who is a big Michigan State apologist, says they won't beat Michigan State. And, largely I'd agree with that, but this is what I said about Michigan State yesterday, Mike. While they play up to their competition as well as any team in the country, they also play down to their competition as bad as any team in the country. I'm not entirely sure what that is about Michigan State, but they look like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on certain occasions where they're just playing lights out basketball, discipline. Tom Izzo's obviously a great coach, but the next game they're playing Minnesota and they can't seem to put the ball in the hoop. So we'll see P12 Foreman. If the Badgers beat Ohio State and Iowa, then I think Michigan State better watch out because Wisconsin would be playing with some incredible momentum there.
So on that side of things, like in the Big Ten, tell me 3 through 13 with Ohio State, who can't beat anybody in this thing. I mean, I think you clearly have Purdue at the top. You have a big gap and a big jump down to Indiana, even still within that. But then there's a big jump down because Northwestern is the 3 and Michigan State is the 4. Those teams are very beatable teams, especially now at neutral sites and things like that. So I don't think that I think this thing is going to be really fun to play out. I think you're going to see Purdue. I hope you see Purdue and Indiana. I mean, if it's not the Badgers, I hope you see that because I think it's going to be good. I think there's some craziness that's going to happen here. And not one thing, if you were to say that the Badgers beat Michigan State and ended up going to the semifinals, I'd be like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, 3 through 13 in the Big Ten can play with any – that thing has been interchangeable literally the entire season. The Badgers were in that mix, and now they're down at 12, and you've seen Northwestern rise there. Rutgers was just up at 3 or 4, and they're down at 9 now. So I think that 3 through 13 in the Big Ten in basketball is interchangeable, which is why it's such a tough conference right now, which is why it's so good because the meat of that is just really good. You might not see the Big Ten win a national championship, although I think Purdue is going to be a formidable contender for this thing. You won't see them win a national championship, but you're going to see a lot of teams in the Sweet 16, I think. Although they're going to get stuck in these mid seeds and have to play some really challenging games even to get into that. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the Big Ten play out.
It's going to be awesome to watch the Big Ten play out. The Big Ten, and I don't care if they win a national championship or not, is still my favorite conference to watch as far as college basketball is concerned. Definitely. Because there's just so many, as you've mentioned, teams that can beat another team on a game-in, game-out basis. And shit, the Badgers were within a couple of bounces and a bad play by Chucky Hepburn away from winning that game against Purdue not that long ago. So it'll be interesting. Again, tip-off tonight, 5:30, Mike. Looking forward to seeing that downstairs at the Recovery Room. All right, I got to change gears here and go to one of the next big topics that you and I were going to be diving into this morning, and that is the idea that now Lamar Jackson might have to actually keep up with the Joneses, Daniel Jones in particular, after Danny Dimes, they call this guy, threw 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Like, okay. So Daniel Jones signs a 4-year deal, $160 million, $82 million of it guaranteed. The $35 million in a bonus incentive is what it is. This is essentially a 2-3-year deal worth $82 million. The 4-year deal gives them some space to stretch. But we compare this to what the Baltimore Ravens gave to Lamar Jackson, the non-exclusive tag, $32 million, now with the opportunity to go out there and engage other teams to see if he wants to get, I don't know, if he can get another contract from another team. It just seems really interesting right now. We're watching Daniel Jones, who is, all right, good. He had a decent season, I guess, get the bag, so to speak, where Lamar Jackson, who is an MVP in this league, has got the 3rd most wins since he came into the league, is probably the most dynamic playmaker, maybe not quarterback specifically, but dynamic playmaker in the NFL, get tagged with this non-exclusive tag. And I don't know, Mike. It feels like it feels like this is a little bit of bullshit. But what are your thoughts on Lamar and Daniel Jones here?
Well, I think this is the classic example of two different organizations that are going to be in different that one's in the class of what they're trying to do, and I think that's the Ravens, who are going to be good all the time. They're going to be a contender every year, and I think you see the Giants right now, who have won 2 Super Bowls in this century, and they've been at the top with at that some of those points, but they've also been at the bottom, and it's been really bad at times as well throughout that same time frame. So I think you look at the Ravens, who said, listen, we're not going to overextend on what we feel like Lamar Jackson is worth. He's been injured. When he's out, we haven't been very good. I think they've looked at this whole thing and said, here's where we're willing to go with Lamar. Let's see if there's a market out there. And they protected themselves with this non-exclusive tag, which means Lamar can field options. But Lamar has one place he wants to go to. He will have a say in this as well. Lamar has one place he wants to go to, and that is Miami. He wants to go to Miami. He wants to go to his hometown. He wants to go play in Miami. And that's what they're going to say is, well, Miami, bring us an offer. If Lamar wants to play there and you're going to give him this contract, then bring us an offer, which is going to be 2 first-round picks, and Lamar's going to have to pay. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to play out because there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks still. What if Carolina offers what if Carolina goes and offers the 9th pick in the draft, and they offer Lamar a contract within this whole deal? Then somebody's got to match that, or he's going to go to Carolina. He doesn't want to go to Carolina. So Lamar has a say in where he goes and what he gets out of this deal. But there's only one spot Lamar wants to go, and that is Miami. And now it's going to be interesting to see, is Miami willing to step up? We know what the market's going to be now. It's 2 first-round picks, and they got to work out the salary cap. That means they're going to have to move on from Tua. They're going to have to move on here. And I would love to see that. Who would not want to see Lamar Jackson with the weapons that they have?
Wow.
On the other side of this thing is Daniel Jones and what the Giants just did. And I think it's a huge mistake what they just did, paying him that money. I think you look at what Derek Carr got, where it's very incentive laced, but it's based around $30 million a year. That's about where Daniel Jones would have played. And what a gift in life to know where you're at and what you can get. Because had he gone to that, they can re-sign Saquon, they can re-sign him, and they would still have space to sign somebody else with them dropping Kenny Galladay. Who has Kenny Galladay even played the last couple of years? He went, that guy, I just saw him in parts unknown in the country, and that was a major flop. But Daniel Jones needs weapons around him, and this deal makes it so that they can't put more weapons around him right now at this present moment because of the cap hit that they're going to spread this cap out, and it's going to happen there. So maybe that works out that way, but they need to fill a lot of spaces around him to make him good. I'm out on this. I think it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, because you knew the Giants were going to re-sign this guy. They love keeping their own guys. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's not as good as what it should. I think it's just kind of like I guess Daniel Jones got his. And now are they going to – I think it was smart to tag Saquon. I think they should let him walk after this year, tag him for this year, pay him the 10.5, and then let him walk and see if you have that window with Daniel Jones to fill a couple of spots. But does this impact Lamar? I don't think so, because there's only one place that Lamar wants to go. That's Miami. He's going to get paid. It's now Baltimore has just opened it up to tell Lamar, look – nobody's going to pay you $200+ million guaranteed. We're going to prove that to you right now. And now you can come back to the drawing table if you want to be with us, or you want to go to Carolina if Miami actually wants to step up to the plate and get him. They're going to get him. If not, then he's got a decision to make to probably have to go back to the Ravens here.
You know, it's just so interesting to me because I look at, okay, so Daniel Jones on one hand wanted about $40 million, and that's what his average annual salary is $40 million. Okay. So he's got the 4-year deal. It's not really a $40 million a year contract, but that's what it looks like on paper. Fine. You had Lamar Jackson reportedly turning down $180 million from the Ravens week 1 of this season. That's more, okay, for simple math, that's more than Daniel Jones. Now we're looking at a situation in which the Ravens are essentially offering him a chance to go play chicken. the 2 first-round draft picks for Lamar, which will be the compensation if he does take an offer from another team and the Ravens don't want to match it, which they can very well do. If the Dolphins give him an offer, the Ravens have all of the rights in this non-exclusive tag to match that and to keep him. But let's say that they don't. So he goes and gets whatever he gets from Baltimore. The idea, though, that you pay a guy like Daniel Jones $160 million when Lamar Jackson probably only gets now $160 or $180 million is just, let's just call it patently crazy, because Daniel Jones is not very good. And that old adage, you don't pay great money for good things, that's this. And the other thing is this: if you pay Daniel Jones so that you don't lose Saquon Barkley, that's bad. But if you pay Daniel Jones because you think he's really good, that's terrible. This is going to be worse than Brock Osweiler.
This is bad, Dave. I'm with you on this. This is bad, and it's you knew the Giants were going to do this. They love to keep their own guys. You knew they were going to do this, and I still think, in my heart, I think they're going to overpay for Saquon. I think they're just buying themselves time to overpay for him as well, which I think is crazy. I think they are going to go pay Saquon 12 to 14. I really do, just because of that's what they do. This is what the Giants do. And that's terrible as well. But you knew they were going to overpay for Daniel Jones. You saw this thing coming the entire time. And that's why he switched agents to go get him his bag. And smart, I guess, by him. But now it's not, I don't know that extends it, but this is going to be bad. The worst thing you can do in football, certainly, I feel it in our program when we hand out scholarships and we give out, because it's not just hey, you get a 1.0 scholarship. It's dollars. It's trying to figure out where these guys are at and making sure that the worst thing you can do is pay a good player great money. That's the worst thing you can do. Just what you just said. That is the absolute, that will tarnish your organization, because then you have a guy getting paid great money for just being a good player. You can never overpay great players. There's no limit on how much you can pay great players. If they are elite, great players, there's no number that's high enough for those guys. So I think you look at Patrick Mahomes, there's no number high enough for Patrick Mahomes that's even out there. I understand the salary cap and all those kind of things that are with it, but you can't pay a great player enough money. And the worst thing that you can do is pay a good player great money. That's what the Giants just did. That's a player that clearly needs a lot of help around him. That's why I think you look at like teams like the 49ers, who were never willing to step up to the plate and pay Jimmy Garoppolo great money. And they said, we're going to go try to find guys and find options. I think you're seeing that with the Packers right now. Now, I think they paid a good player great money a year ago, but they're going to find themselves on the other side of that here now after this. But the Giants just paid a good player, an average player, an okay player, great money. And they could, that's, I think a lot of people get in this trap of, well, what else are you going to get? They have to pay a guy like that. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
They absolutely do not have to do that. And they can find other players who are out there.
See, this is okay. So this is interesting, because as we're talking Daniel Jones, we're talking Lamar Jackson, we're using two players who are not close in talent. They're just not close in talent, but we're seeing two organizations operate in diametrically different fashions. So you have the Giants on one hand, who you mentioned have been hit with some years of, let's just say, ineptitude. Fine. But you're paying great money for maybe a good player, a player that's played good enough one season. And you're saying, well, we can't afford to lose this guy. Sure you can. Look at what Baltimore's doing. We can't pay this guy. Sure you can. Look at what Baltimore's doing. This is a league MVP and a guy that's only 26 years old. Now, the way that I want to wrap this little conversation into the Bears here is because of this. Foreman and Rob Dog were going back and forth on the Bears, and they've got a conversation going. I just wanted to put up a Super Bowl, potential Bears, Nagy, all this into the ether, because I still think there is a chance, outside as it may be, the Chicago Bears step into this particular void. They have got oodles of cap space, more cap space than anybody in the NFL right now. Yes, they've got the first overall pick. Sure, that's fine. But within the next couple of days, you can start to work on trading that pick down. Let's say you even go from 1 to 3 or 4. If you want to move that pick and take Lamar Jackson, I guarantee you, Chicago fans, Lamar Jackson will be better day one than anybody in this NFL draft, and fucking 18 times better than Justin Fields. If that's what you want to do, then you put Lamar Jackson in a situation where he's basically Michael Jordan in Chicago. To your point, I think he wants to play in Miami. It's his hometown team. Okay, but there's going to be only a number of teams that can really go out there and make this deal happen. Like, we can buy this player and we can just scoop it up. That's something that I would still keep in the back of your mind's eye if you're looking at this, because I see 16 teams come out yesterday saying they don't want Lamar Jackson. Well, either that's a smokescreen or it's collusion. Because if you're just telling me they don't want to pay this guy a guaranteed contract and all the teams are in on not giving guaranteed contracts, okay, that's one thing. Otherwise, if I'm a general manager of a team that needs a quarterback, I'm absolutely looking at this guy. And if you told me today I could have Rodgers or Lamar Jackson, fucking thanks, Rodgers. This has been cool. Lamar Jackson, he's 26 years old. That's what we have to really consider here. This guy is as young as many of the quarterbacks coming out of college right now. So I'm all in on the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. And, bro, if he goes to Baltimore, holy smokes, that's going to be something to see right there. With those weapons you mentioned, oh, my Lanta. That would be fantastic. That would be a great watch.
We would love to watch him in Miami. We would love that. I agree with you. I've said this too. I think the Bears are definitely in play here with what they have with cap space and what they have with the draft pick. And they could trade down, get more picks, and then still trade that pick wherever they land in the top 5 or top 6 and still turn that into whatever. I mean, because let's look at this here, Dave. Who's the best quarterback in this draft? And don't tell me it's Bryce Young. It's Anthony Richardson.
Yes.
Give me an absolute break. Let's not what are we doing? Like, when you watch the guy play and you watch him do what he does, he's the best player in this draft. I don't think it's even close. And the fact that he hasn't been talked about in that, I've said this for months, that this is the best guy in this draft. He should be the guy that should be in this conversation. I would love to watch the Ravens trade Lamar Jackson, get draft capital, and then turn it into Anthony Richardson again and just do the exact same thing. How much fun would that be? And if you're the Bears and you just watched Richardson's workout the other day to confirm how freakishly talented this guy is, you have got to shake hands with Justin Fields, say, we really appreciate your couple of years here, man, but bye-bye. We're moving on, and we're taking this guy, and you can either be his backup or we can trade you or cut you or whatever the heck they want to do with this thing.
Well, listen, and I'll throw this out here because as we're spinning on this topic, it does make – listen, the more that we get close to a final, D-Day on all this stuff, the more it makes it exciting to sort of ponder what possibly could be. So then throw this out there. Justin Fields, let's trade him to Carolina. If you're the Bears, Carolina gets to have this guy. All right, maybe you don't even take their first-round pick. Maybe you take a second and 2/3, something. They've got a bunch of picks. Maybe you get their first-round pick, but you move Justin to Carolina. The Bears move back some spots. They get, I don't know, somewhere in the 5-6 range. You get a couple of teams jockeying for that first overall pick, or they take this kid Richardson. The Bears are one of these rare teams that has the real opportunity, if their GM doesn't fuck it up and their coach Eberflus can put it all together, to go from like worst to first, because they've got all the picks, they've got all the cap. And I do think Lamar Jackson is somehow going to be in the conversation with Chicago. Now,
how are you not making that call? How are you not making that call if you're the Bears?
Well, I think it's criminal if you don't. And for the 16 teams to come out yesterday when asked and say, oh, we got no interest in Lamar Jackson, give me a break. Unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Cincinnati Bengals, unless you're like one of 5 teams, maybe Buffalo, maybe Buffalo, maybe if you're one of those 5 teams, then okay. But if you're anybody else, if you're the Packers right now, you're like, hey, what does Aaron Rodgers to the Ravens look like for you? Because if we're talking trading here, we can send him out of conference and we could get Lamar Jackson. Packer fans, that would be fun. Speaking of this guy, Aaron Charles Rodgers, Mike, reports yesterday surfaced from Los Angeles, the area of Los Angeles, actually Camarillo, where I lived before I moved back to Las Vegas in 2003. Reports surfaced that Rodgers met the Jets brass, including owner Woody Johnson, general manager Joe Douglas, head coach Robert Saleh, former disgraced head coach and offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, to talk about whatever the potential of Rodgers joining the Jets would be. He can only meet with the Jets if the Packers gave him permission to do so. Otherwise, it's tampering. And we know the Packers, if anything, are a buttoned-up organization. Mark Murphy's not getting in trouble for anything. So the Packers must have granted him the permission to talk to the Jets. What, if anything, do you think comes from that meeting yesterday?
Well, I think they're trying to figure out if he's going to play more than 1 year or 2 years, how far he's going to play. I think that's what this is about, is trying to get in front of him because remember, this is not just Packers Jets that have to work this out. Rodgers is going to have to rework and scrap the contract he's on, rework it and put something in there. And now the Jets have to come to a conclusion that he is going to play for 2 or 3 more years, whatever they determine he's going to play for. And then if it's 1 or 2 years, they're probably going to give up 1 first-round pick. If it's 3 or 4 years that he feels like he's going to play yet, then it might be more picks. They're trying to figure out what the compensation back to the Packers is going to look like. And I think they're trying to figure out how many more years he's going to play. Also, they're trying to pitch this. I think let's talk about the funniest part of this whole thing first, Dave. Woody Johnson, where did he make his money? What is he an heir of? Johnson and Johnson.
Oh,
what did Johnson and Johnson? Woody Johnson, by the way, bought the Jets in 2020.
Pfizer.
Woody Johnson.
Yes,
he bought it in 2020. What happened in 2020? That's where he bought the Jets. And Woody Johnson has made his money through Johnson & Johnson, which is now the proud makers of the one-shot COVID vaccine. So Aaron Rodgers is going to have to take dirty vaccine money if he's going to go play for the Jets. So is my favorite part of this is like Aaron has to be he gets a chance to walk away and say, I'm above the money. I don't need that. I'm a regular guy like you guys. He ain't going to do that. He wants the money. He loves the money, and he needs that money. Or he's got to go take the dirty COVID vaccine money that he now has to take from Woody Johnson and his Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine money. So I revel in this. Like, this is one of my favorite parts of this whole story, is that Rodgers has but he hasn't ripped on Johnson & Johnson that much. He has ripped on Pfizer. So I guess it might be, to him, he's playing some mental gymnastics to make it better than taking Pfizer money. But he has to take some dirty COVID vaccine money into his pocket if he's going to take this money.
Well, don't forget, not just dirty COVID vaccine money, but Johnson & Johnson also gives people cancer with their baby powders, right? We can't forget that either. So it's also cancer-causing, odor-fighting, and sweat-reducing baby powder. As much as we loved our babies, we were putting cancer talcum right on their little asses and thinking nothing of it. So, yeah, Johnson & Johnson, owner Woody Johnson, Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett, boy, he was so bad last year. I can't even believe the stench of that. I can't believe that wore off quick enough for somebody to give this guy a job. And Robert Saleh, young receivers, a media market in which many of the reporters feel that they are as famous, if not more famous, than Aaron Rodgers, a city that's full of, especially in Manhattan, a city full of, mostly radical liberals, from what I can understand. I can't see how this doesn't work out from all the different angles that we just covered. I can't see how this works out. Young wide receivers. I mean, we know, if anything, Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't like those young guys.
We need trust. Got to develop trust. I think it's kind of funny that the suitor for him right now is the Jets. And all of these things coming together on all of this has to be, woo. I mean, it's going to be a pill that's going to look like a T-bone steak that he's going to have to swallow here. I guess no pun intended there with the Johnson & Johnson stuff, but he's going to have a big pill to swallow on the personal side of things to make this work. But it's either that or like come back and deal with what the Packers are trying to say to you here and what they need out of you, which looks like, I mean, with all these leaks, first of all, a lot of these leaks I think have been coming out of the New York side of things, is this thing certainly is part of that. But I think a lot of the leaks coming out, where there's smoke, there's fire. And as much as everybody wants to say a couple years ago that there was no smoke, that there's smoke, no fire, there was fire there a couple of years ago when it came out on the eve of the draft. That he was looking to leave. That was real, and that was actually happening. And what they have, and he said as much last year in his big 30-minute press conference that he got the airing of the grievances of Aaron Rodgers that we all had to sit and listen to. But I think that this is just, it looks like it's going to happen. I'm just interested to see how the personal side of these things works out, taking this COVID vaccine money that he's going to have to get from Woody Johnson. And I just think it's, I think it's going to be really funny to kind of watch this part kind of play itself out.
Yeah, funny. If we use the term funny as sort of an ironic gesturing of comic errors, Soul Surfer P1 Breacher says, Woody Johnson says, I didn't take the vaccine either. Of course. That's, yeah, absolutely. Because why would you make it and take it? Unless we want to go on to a completely different discussion, which we could have. And that is, of course, the great graft, which was COVID anyways, and how these pharmaceutical companies just made so much money. I think they're making like $1 billion a second right now or some shit. So anyways, Mike, Aaron, if he goes to the Jets, he will exactly fall into what Brett Favre did. Their careers mirroring each other in such a way that this is really and truly where I want to leave you today. And Packer fans, I want to put this in your pipe so you can smoke it. If Aaron goes to the Jets, the truest words that will come out of my mouth right now is that by this time, 2025, Aaron's going to be starting for the Minnesota Vikings. Like, that's what's going to happen next. So, Mike, have a great day. I love you, buddy, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
I love you, man. What if he goes to the Bears? That would just be that would. I mean, that's his next stop in the way that he's been going on is the Jets and taking COVID vaccine money and then going to the Bears. I think that we got to make this happen.
Well, listen, as a Bears owner, because he does own them, I'm sure he has that decision-making power. So
he can make it happen. I appreciate you, Dave.
See you, big guy.
See ya.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices. Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room. Wants to send a special shout out to my good friends over at Preferred Insurance. Brian and Tony there to give you insurance quotes from all the big dogs in the country, making sure that you get the best insurance prices on all your insurance needs, home, auto, business, flood insurance. Talk to our friends over at Preferred Insurance. We're coming up with a link that we'll have placed on our Facebook group page. We'll put it on Twitter. We'll put it on our YouTube page, wherever we can stick this particular link. We'll be getting this really soon. You get a quote, you'll be directly contributing to the success of the Sports Carnival. Our friends over at BetUS, the official sports book of the Sports Carnival, offer 125% free play deposit match on your initial deposit. Just go to betus.com, enter promo code CARNIVAL when you do so to claim that 125% free play deposit money. Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, is my realtor. He should be yours if you're looking to buy or sell a home, or if you're just getting into real estate investing. Trust me, Kyle is right on the forefront of all of what it takes to be a real estate agent today, which is industry information, knowledge, technology, dedication, and again, the ability to get back to you. That's another big part of this. My buddy Sean O'Neill at the O'Neill Law Firm is also the official law firm of the program, and he handles your criminal, your bankruptcy, and your family needs. I just talked to Sean the other day. Sean's working me through some paperwork issues right now. Again, Sean O'Neill, the O'Neill Law Firm, downtown La Crosse on 5th Street. Go check them out if you've got any issues that you can't take care of yourself. Coming up tonight, guys and gals, the Milwaukee Bucks, or I shouldn't say coming up tonight, coming up tomorrow, the Milwaukee Bucks will be back in action. They will be taking on the Brooklyn Nets, who are still hanging in the Eastern Conference playoff race, 37-28. The Bucks now 47-18 after another huge win last night. No Giannis. It didn't matter. Drew Holiday didn't play. Didn't matter. Brook Lopez scored 26 points. Chris Middleton and Javon Carter each added 24 points. Bobby Portis had 16 and 11. And Jay Crowder had 15 points, 7 in a row during a really crucial stretch. The Bucks just ran roughshod over the Magic. Once the game was tied at 51, Milwaukee just separated and ran away 18 wins in their last 19 games. The Bucks, the number one seed in the NBA Eastern Conference right now, and don't look like they're going to be looking to give up that position as the number one team in the NBA's Eastern Conference anytime soon. Really excited to see what this Bucks team can do in the postseason. Drew Holiday was listed out with a knee injury, and Giannis sat for what was called a non-COVID illness. But as mentioned, they didn't need it last night. Orlando is a team that, well, Matt from the Recov said yesterday, is plucky. They're just not nearly complete enough to beat a Milwaukee team, even if they don't have Drew Holiday and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Again, Lopez 26. Middleton started for the first time this season, got 24, and Javon Carter 24. I just love the fact that Milwaukee is so damn deep now. I really do. I just love the fact that they are so damn deep. Javon Carter is a better version of what George Hill had been for Milwaukee in the last couple of seasons. George Hill's first year with the Bucks was really good, but he's just aged out a bit. So Javon Carter gives you that bounce. He's good off the dribble. He's a good playmaker, but he's good on offense. Bobby Porter has just been an absolute monster off the bench this year. Brook Lopez is having his best season. I don't know about in his entire career, but he's having one of the best seasons in his career. Chris Middleton, as we've talked a lot about, is just rounding back into shape. But now we're seeing his first start come with 24 points. Again, a game in which Giannis wasn't playing. And we can see the rust starting to fall off. This is good. This is good timing to be a Bucks fan. And if you're a Bucks player, this is a good time to be getting yourself right and ready for the NBA postseason, which is coming up in just about 16 games for the Milwaukee Bucks. If you haven't yet taken this morning's poll question, I encourage you to do so. Facebook group page or our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney is asking you, will Lamar Jackson stay with the Ravens or go to another team after Baltimore tagged him yesterday? When we took our first look on Facebook, it was 77-33 or 77-23, excuse me. When we took our first look at our Twitter feed, it was 50-50 split right down the middle. I just went and refreshed both of these. The Twitter poll has changed slightly, 55-45 now, saying Lamar Jackson's going to sign with another team. The Facebook group page is staying pretty much the same, 70-30, with the 70% saying staying with the Ravens, 30% saying that he's going to another team. I think it's more and more likely that Lamar Jackson goes to another team. I really do. I'm leaning with the 55% on our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney saying he goes to another team. Because if Baltimore really wanted to keep Lamar, they probably would have figured out a way within the last year or two to make that happen. Definitely Lamar Jackson's got an idea of what his value is. And definitely Baltimore's got an idea of what his value is. If Lamar's going to be a real hard case and say, listen, I'm only going to play for this kind of contract, or maybe he takes a contract that isn't exactly what he wanted, but it's closer to what he wanted than Baltimore was willing to give him, then I think he just wants to go to another team. If it's Miami, if they're able to work something out like Mike Schmidt mentioned to us just a few minutes ago, wow, would that be spectacular to watch? Can you imagine the dynamicism of what that would be with Jackson and Hill, the tight end Gesicki, and the weapons that Miami continues to develop? Imagine what that would be with Lamar Jackson. That would be something to behold. Now, Tua, for the first, 8 games of the season last year, was an early MVP candidate, had led the Pro Bowl votes for the AFC in voting. Tua was looking great, setting the league like on fire for the first 8 weeks. Now, he's just not big enough, not strong enough, and he get knocked out, no fault of his own, but he wasn't able to keep up with that. If Lamar Jackson went to Miami, boy, that would be really, really interesting. Has Jimmy G signed with anybody? Morningwood was popping up and asking us. Not that I know of. As of right now, this morning, we'll go ahead and refresh this little feed here. No, there has not been a Jimmy G signing. And you can understand that largely because Jimmy G just isn't healthy, right? What's Jimmy G worth to a team? That's going to be hard to see. If the Jets don't strike an Aaron Rodgers deal, I could see that as a potential, right? I could see that. The Robert Saleh connection from San Francisco, I could see that as a potential. But no, Jimmy G hasn't signed with anybody yet. I could see Tampa Bay making a play for him. Will they just go with Kyle Trask? I doubt it. Well, maybe Houston drafts a quarterback but doesn't want to play him week 1. There would be another team to say maybe on. I want to thank Mike Schmidt for stepping in, filling in some extra time with us this morning. This was a lot of fun. Hope you guys and gals had a great start to your hip-hop hump day. Don't forget the Recov opens at 11 this morning. It's Wing Wednesday, baby. Wings and a pitcher of beer, just $14. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you bright and early here tomorrow.